Tommy, here we are again. Another week. Certainly going by thick and fast. Don't like to bring up old ground, but we'll start with last Saturday and Tunbridge. Your thoughts on the performance as a whole?
Well, it was a game in which we created enough chances to win 2 or 3 games. If I'm being honest, we dominated the possession. I felt we worked the ball into areas to score enough goals, like I said, to win a couple of games. We didn't take the chances, and ultimately that cost us. You know, the lottery of the penalty shootout is what it is. You know, sometimes it's not the best team that goes through in that situations, and I felt that was the case on Saturday. I hate using the word disappointing any time when I speak to you guys, but the disappointing thing was we weren't in the next round of the hat. There was a lot of positives to come out of the performance, I thought, but ultimately, you know, having not lost the game over 90 minutes, it's a tough pill to swallow. But we got to dust ourselves down, which we did. Again, the boys have trained well this week. We've got the great, fixture at Southend tomorrow night to look forward to. So from that point of view, we can't dwell on anything that is not going to improve us going forward. So the things that we did well last Saturday, we'll reiterate to the players that we need to see more of that. We need to be a bit more clinical in the final third. And we need to start seeing games out, whatever the scores are. If we're winning 1-0, if we've got a point in our pocket away from home, we've got to come away with that point. So they're the sort of messages we've been giving the players this week.
I mean, the lottery of penalties, but talking about penalties, again, it was another game where you could have had perhaps 1 or 2 yourself. I mean, what were your thoughts on the ones which you weren't awarded during the game?
Well, at the time in play, I thought all 3 incidences, the one just before half time. Having looked at the video at that one at half time, I wasn't so sure, but then I saw a different angle later on in the day, and that was a penalty. It was foul. Well, it's a foul again. It's a foul in the box, and as far as I know, the rules haven't changed. It doesn't matter how you foul, it's a foul. And that usually results in a penalty. So that was disappointing. But the 2 at the end of the game, I mean, I hate using the word stonewall, but it was. The one on young Connor, who reacted really well to a save from their goalkeeper. Their lad was actually falling backwards with his both hands round Connor's midriff to pull him to the ground. The referee's no more than 7 yards away with nothing in his view. He didn't even react to that challenge, and then Michael Clunan got felled seconds later, and he was very quick just to say no. He then gave a resultant free kick to them outside the box, which was nowhere near the level of, physicality that either of the 2 challenges were. So it's really disappointing. You could see by our reaction at the time that we were disappointed in that. But you have to, they say it evens itself out over a season, so we've got a few to come, I should think. Yeah.
I mean, obviously they say you make your own luck in football sometimes, but do you feel you're perhaps not getting the rub of the green at the moment?
I think that happens, if you're flying high on the crest of a wave, you tend to feel things are going for you, but that always has got a downturn. And if you're in the situation we're in, where things seem to be going against us at times, for instance, them sort of decisions, we have to believe that tide's going to turn as well. So, over the season, like you said, it should even itself out. I'm not a big believer in that, because the crowds, the ends of which pitch you're playing out, your crowd being at that end or not, for instance, it's difficult for referees, and I don't want to criticise anybody, but they've got to get them decisions right. And I've not had a phone call yet from anybody to say, oops, I got that one wrong. And that used to be the case. So whether they don't look at the incidents as much as we do in depth afterwards, I don't know. But if they do, and they still come to the opinion that it wasn't a foul, then we are definitely watching a different game.
Yeah. Been a busy week, obviously leading on from that, with the focus on Southend. You've tied up a couple of deals with players. Obviously, first of all, let's talk about Zane. You've thought he's come back to the club.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you think he can bring to the team, and also about Zane as an individual.
Well, Zane's a talented lad. I mean, having made his debut at only 16 at Bristol Rovers, he was then sort of pushed aside because the manager who gave him his debut moved on. He was a good judge of player, by the way, and he eventually found himself back involved after one manager had gone through the building. The next manager, who's a very, very good coach, and is now managing at Swindon Town. saw fit to give Zane a 3-year contract, and I was totally in agreement with that as the director of football down there. Unfortunately for Zane, he's been a victim of massive changes at the football club, and the next two managers, sounds crackers to hear that there's 4 managers in 2.5 years at a football club, but that was the case. He was a victim of that and fell down the pecking order with the current manager, but didn't mean his pedigree or his potential to be a real good player has changed, in my opinion. I know he needed to get out of Bristol Rovers at some stage. When I heard that he was available, I made a call, and when I spoke to Zane, he was really keen to come back. He enjoyed his time when he was here before. Obviously, there'll not be such a massive settling in period for him because he does know a lot of the lads. He knows myself. So yeah, it's one that I'm really pleased and I'm excited by. I'm hopefully he can fulfil his potential because that's what he's got. But he fills a couple of different roles, I feel. I mean, I came and watched him when he came on loan the first time, and he didn't get that much of a run in the side, to be honest with you. It was a little bit all change at the time. But yeah, he's a good kid, and I can see him being a positive signing for us. And
obviously Ollie Scott, who you had on trial, but we've seen he's shown, I think he's very quickly become a favourite of the fans just for his overall commitment. Yeah. You've tied him down for the rest of the season now as well.
Yeah, I mean, both of them are for the minimum of the rest of the season, let's put it that way. They are now Kings Lynn Town players, which is good. Ollie's a great example to any youngster who has anybody that represent them, phone managers up or send emails around saying this player can do this and can do this. He didn't do any of that. He said, I'll come in and show you what I can do. And if you feel I can make a difference to your squad, then I'm prepared to play for nothing, which is what he did. He played for nothing against Chesterfield and he played for nothing against Notts County. Now that, in my estimation, or guesstimations, is probably 1 in a million in today's game. Too many people think the game owes them a living. It doesn't. You know, anybody who comes to this football club has to work hard and prove to me that they're worthy of a shirt. You don't get a shirt for nothing, and he has sacrificed 2 or 3 weeks of his life, and he's took a risk, to be fair to the lad, but I'd like to think he's been repaid the best way I can is by showing my confidence in the fact I think he can do us a job. He improves the squad undoubtedly with his fitness, with his attitude, with his application, and then with his quality. And hopefully he can carry the upward curve because he's started ever so well. I don't get too carried away. He's played 3 games at the end of the day, and we haven't won any of them, by the way. But he has impressed me in all 3 games. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that fans' eyebrows have gone up quite quickly when he came, because he came from nowhere. But he is the epitome of what I want in terms of the full package, in attitude, application, professionalism. For a lad who's been playing at concert, he acts as professionally in that dressing room and around the football club as anybody.
And he just watching him in the games, he doesn't seem fazed by anything, to be fair.
No, like I said, the whole package has to include that sort of thing. If you're going to be fazed by 6,500 at Chesterfield on your debut, then I'm worried. But he didn't. I thought he did ever so well in a great team performance. And like I said, without pushing too much glory on him, he's done very well. But he's set the bar for himself. That's what he's done. And others. People around the building can't look and say, well, why is he playing and why am I not playing? And eventually, the team usually picks itself. You know, if a manager's here long enough, people understand the trends and the traits that the manager likes. Very quickly, the guys in there are learning what it is I do like and what it is I don't like.
Obviously, there was a small connection. I think you know his father. Was it Rich? I can't think his father.
Martin Scott.
Martin, that's it. Yeah, You knew his father, I think.
Only because I used to kick him when I played against Sunderland. but yeah, Martin was a coach at Hartlepool many years ago, but he was more involved in the coaching after I had left. So I knew Martin as a footballer. I don't know him socially or anything like that. Again, it's not a favours thing. It's nothing like that. When somebody says to you, I will come and train to show you I should be in your squad, I would never turn that down. If I've got the capacity in terms of numbers and it fits with our training, which it did over the Christmas period, because I knew there wasn't going to be a great deal of games. He came and trained all over the Christmas period. He sacrificed his Christmas to come from the northeast of England down here and give it to me. And like I said, the rest is history at the moment.
you saying what you've just said about Ollie, if there's other players, young players out there who for some reason are watching this or listening to your interview and they think, yeah, I'd like to give it a go, would you, is that something you'd be more than happy to take on board?
Well, they've got to have a certain amount of pedigree, for first and foremost, because with all due respect, certain levels of football, if you're playing at a certain level, it's very, very difficult to jump to this level. If you've had a background in professional football, which Ollie has obviously, but has decided to step down to make the step back up, if possible, then that's what I'll be looking at. That said, we have got in general a fairly young squad here. So, you know, if anything, I'm looking for, at this moment in time, I'm looking for a little bit more know-how and a little bit more nous. Now, that might be still a guy in his young 20s, he mightn't be playing at this level, he might be playing slightly lower than this, or it might be somebody older who needs to play more football. So the answer to your question is, I never say no without investigating the whole scenario myself anyway. But if there's anybody, yeah, now I'm going to have 100 emails and 100 phone calls asking for trials. Now, like I said, when the games programme and the training programme allows it, I have no problem with inviting the right people in to train with us. The hard thing at the moment as well, though, is the COVID situation. Hopefully that's going to peter away eventually, but at the moment we're still in the red zone in terms of our lateral flows. Every time we come into train, we have to provide, you know, clear samples and stuff. So that's a problem. Is you're very lucky to be in the club.
Yeah. You spoke earlier. You said you've got to be more clinical and further up the pitch. Now, obviously, the obvious question now: does that mean you're looking for a goal scorer? With no disrespect to who you've got at the club at the moment.
I think I've said it since I come in the building. It's dead easy to just blame the goalkeeper if the ball goes in that end and the strikers if it doesn't go in at that end. Now, I genuinely believe we're finding the route for the strikers to score goals. What we've also got to do is find or give the strikers the right information to get in the right positions to finish the service, if you like. And sometimes the strikers are in the right position and the ball doesn't arrive. Sometimes the ball arrives or it doesn't arrive at the right time and the strikers haven't got there. Whatever the situation, I genuinely believe it'll happen soon. It'll happen soon, and I genuinely hope it happens for the lads who are in the building. That doesn't stop me looking and investigating other things. I would be daft not to be doing that. But again, I'll say it again. There are only a very few of the players I'm looking at that will be the action that happens will be determined by the window, the EFL window. The vast majority of what I'll do will be people who are more tuned to this level or the levels around it, so one up or one down. That's all I can say. But trust me, the players had a day off yesterday, Wednesday, or rest day. Probably my busiest day of the week yesterday. I mean, my phone, when it wasn't in my ear roll, was on a plug, getting charged up again, because I've spoken to that many people about that many possibilities, because I know what's happening internally and what could leave the building. I also have to make sure I've got something in before something goes.
Does that mean, are you any closer? I mean, can people expect further new faces perhaps in the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Next 2 or 3 hours.
Right, that close?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't tell you anything about that until the paperwork's done. But I've agreed to bring somebody in who I feel, again, I would only bring somebody in who I feel will add to the starting 11. And so there should be somebody in, hopefully before the game at Southend. Okay,
and hopefully they will be available, whoever the person is, they'll be available for tomorrow night. Yeah.
You said it.
Okay, just moving on to Southend then. It's a big game for lots of reasons. So it's sort of home from home for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't live far from Southend's ground, and I've worked there before. I know a lot of people who work there. I've worked very closely with their manager. So yeah, but put that aside. It's our next game, and we've got a point in my pocket. We'll be going down there hoping to try and add to that. But we're under no illusion. Their position I think with the staff and people who've got running the football club on the football operation now, I don't see Southend struggling for much longer. I see them having an upturn in the form, which they already have under Kev. He's a good football man, and he's a great coach. So we're going there knowing it's another scenario where fortunately or unfortunately, after the Dover game, everything we're playing are clubs with massive stature and infrastructure compared to ourselves. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse every week, because if I look at the table, the vast majority of the clubs are like that. What we've got to do is make sure on footballing terms, we've got to go there, give them a game and take out of the game what we can. Well, season won't be defined on Friday night. The next game and then the next game. We'll sit here, and if we have disappointments, which I'm sure we have, you'll never see me sitting here like that and whinging and moaning, because I know I've got a figure in my head about the games we need to win, which games we can win, but it never works like that. If you try to play football on paper, well, I've never seen a game on paper, so it's, everything you should get a point here or you might get a point there. It's nonsense. At the end of the day, every game is 11v11, and the team prepared and functioning right on the day or night will come out victors. And we're going to try and do that every time we take to the pitch. What I'm hoping for is we do it more than not.
Do you feel then that Southend are possibly in a false position?
Well, they're not in a false position because there's half a season gone. But the current staff there have gone in there and made a difference. They've put their stamp on the football club in terms of the way they play. They've made 1 or 2 changes in personnel. And also they've had an embargo lifted. So from that point of view, they've had the gates opened. I know they've made infrastructural changes in terms of they're doing away with a certain area of their club to increase, I'd imagine, to increase the first team budget, because it would be absolutely unthinkable for them to come further down the pyramid than where they are at this moment in time. It's got to be the lowest point for the football club. But like I said, I've no doubt that they'll upturn, and possibly even next season they could be a Notts County or a Wrexham or a Chesterfield in this division. So from that point of view, forget about where they are in the division. It's different to that.
They're having a new stadium built as well, I believe. So that just shows you what you're up against, doesn't it? In this league.
Well, I stood in a field with a hard hat and a high-vis vest on in 2010 when I joined Southend United as the assistant manager, thinking we were getting a new stadium then. So when that starts getting built, I'll believe that.
Okay. In terms of the game, do you look at it? People say, "Oh, 6-pointer." How do you view that? Going into it.
Never had 6 points in any game I've ever won. It's only been 3 or 1 or none, and that's what we're working at. I mean, we won't be looking at tables and points and anything. We'll be looking at every game as an individual project, task, whatever you want to call it. And the team that plays this week might not be the team that plays next week. We keep talking about schedules, but it seems that our schedule keeps getting knocked back until a time where it's concertinas. And February is going to be a big month, because there's going to be games in there where you guys and people will be suggesting we should or we could win them games. But I go into every game thinking I can win it, and obviously we have to navigate our way through the game. If we can get ourselves in the lead, we need to try and stay in the lead. If we get behind, we have to get back in the game. So it's a fluid thing, game plans, and we'll go there with a particular one, and hopefully we get it right.
I mean, I don't like talking about February yet, because obviously we've still got 2 games in this month, and big games at that. So we'll come to February perhaps in a couple of weeks. But like you say, you've got 5. I think it's 5 home games that month, haven't you now? So that's could be pivotal.
Yeah, it seems we're at home most weekends and away in the midweeks, or vast majority of. But like you said, it's down the road. I mean, it's on my horizon, but it's not in my vision at the moment. The only game that I'm thinking about is the Southend game. We're just about to go out and do a final prep for that. So the players will know what their roles are within the squad, and we'll be on the bus down to Essex.
Does that mean we'll have a few extra fans down in Southend tomorrow night?
There might be a few more ticket requests, I suppose. But I've got lots of family obviously living in Southend, so. And I believe the chairman has connections down there as well. So from that point of view, there probably will be a few more Lynn fans there. But hopefully, because they're a very well supported club, big club. It's my local club, if you like, because I live there, but I'm not a fan of theirs. So for bragging rights in my local distilleries and stuff like that, I need to be winning them bragging rights.
And just finally, just talk about the players you've got available and the injury situation. Can you just give us an update on because Theo missed last Saturday was
cup tied. Him and Ken Charles were cup tied, so they've had a rested effect from matches, but they've trained a little more than the rest of the group. There's a couple coming back from injury who, again, they didn't feature last week, or they didn't get on the pitch last week, whereas Tyler Denton did. He's trained on, and so he's getting closer and closer. And like I said, we're hopeful of adding at least one before the game.
Callum McFadden, is he pretty close to being back for a start?
For a start, we'd be probably asking a little bit much at the moment. He hasn't done enough training yet, or full training. He's trained with the medical people and with Ben, but he's only done 2 sessions with us, so highly unlikely he'll start on Friday, but he could well be involved in the game.
Okay.
He's getting close.
And any others? I'm just thinking Louis Fernandez.
Yeah, Louis available to be picked. He's trained all week. He missed last week because of a niggle more than an injury. So he's trained all week and trained fine. So yeah, like I said, I understand the need and the want to hear about new faces and it's going to change the world. It's not. This person's going to change your football club. Simple as that. My practices and my thoughts and beliefs will change the club without a shadow of a doubt. It'll change the players' mentality. It'll change their habits from whether they were good, bad or indifferent to my version of good. So from that point of view, the change that was going to be made was going to be at the helm. Most of the players are on contract, or all of the players are on contract. So, they're comforted by the fact that they've got distance in there. What they've got to do is continue on a daily basis, proving to me that they are the people to keep us in this league. Now, if one or two have doubts about that, personally, they need to come and tell me, because if they don't, I'll be coming to tell them soon.
I mean, we speak lastly, because I know obviously you've got to get off the train, and we talk about incomings. Is there a possibility 1 or 2 could be leaving, or is it a case of you need all the bodies you can get at the moment?
1 or 2 might leave for whatever reason. Like I said, it might be their choice. It might be me encouraging them, the fact that I don't see in the very short term them getting the game time that they might perceive themselves to get. Again, footballers only think about themselves. I was one once. You have to be a bit selfish in terms of, you're looking after your own self, your brand as a footballer. But I have to make sure that the vast majority are happy most of the time. Otherwise, we won't have that merry band going along together. So it's difficult. That's the most difficult part of the job, disappointing people. Disappointing them because I haven't picked them in the starting 11, but I have picked them on the bench. Now, to me, if you're on the bench or on the starting 11, you can affect the game. If you've been left in the stand and you're available to be picked, I understand the disappointment in that. Your nose has been pushed out of joint, your pride's a little bit hurt. But ultimately, if you're a team player and it's a team game, you've got to get on board and you've got to go and encourage your mates to win that game, because you don't know what's going to happen to any one of the 16 involved today. Tomorrow you might be needed. And if you're mentally disengaged yourself because you're annoyed that you're not getting what you want, then I'll soon work that out and you'll not be here very long.